Welcome to the last segment of Citizens Forum, being filmed on Tuesday, August the 11th. Our guest in this segment is Norm Ryder. Norm's been on the show a few times before, and we're going to be talking about a few different things. So Norm, you wanted to start off just about a newspaper story you saw about how difficult it is to apply for social assistance. And I actually saw the same story, and I was kind of not only amazed and shocked, but, you know, why do they make it so difficult? Well, I know why. But.
Yeah, I looked at that article and it brought up all sorts of things that I started thinking about the plight of people on social assistance. That includes some homeless, people with disabilities. It's the whole group of them, how awkward things are. That article was referring to apply for social assistance, they had to go online to do it. Well, I don't know of many homeless people that have a secure internet connection, and they can't just go to the library and use the internet connection there and have any degree of security because...
How long is the form? Or they said it took like 30 minutes or something to... I can't remember, but it sounded like a very complex form, and I've dealt with these complex forms in different situations, and they're difficult to fill out.
I think the article said that there were 50 different page views that had to be made to look at it. Now, how long the form itself is, I don't think it's that long. And it takes more than half an hour, which most libraries limit you to half an hour. So if you get kicked off the system and have to re-log in, you would have to start all over again. Well, if it takes more than half an hour, you may never be able to complete it.
Here in Victoria, they've changed it now, so you've got, I think, up to 2 hours at one time.
Well,
but you know, we had somebody on from TAPS, I think, months ago, Together Against Poverty Society, and I remember he brought up, maybe it wasn't when he was on the show, but maybe I heard him on the radio or something, and he sort of brought up that same issue of how difficult Christy Clark has made it for the people at the very bottom of the ladder who are just hanging on. And you want to get just a little bit of welfare so you can get some food or something, and it's just like roadblock after roadblock that the government, Ms. Clark and her friends, put in front of them.
Well, I think actually it starts at the federal government level where they've been offloading it to the province, who offloaded it down, and of course the homeless person is the last person to be able to fight back, so they have to carry the load themselves. And when you talk about just getting a little bit of money for food, that was another issue that I think a homeless person gets $235 a month, which doesn't buy a lot of food, especially when you have no place to cook it. But the price of good food is going to start going up quite a bit in the next little while because of...
It's already going up.
Well, that's exactly because of the drought conditions worldwide, or not worldwide, but on the West Coast. So here you've got these people struggling to get food. They can't get proper food, which contributes to health problems, both mental and physical issues, which is going to increase costs elsewhere. But the whole social assistance structure has not, shall we say, improved conditions for people since, I believe it's 2007. Well, you know how much your cost has gone up just to live from 2007. Well, these people, they have no room to maneuver, that they just keep getting pressed down.
It's murder. I mean, I can't really think of another term for it. When we have a country where the people who run the country, and personally I think that's the corporations, and their politicians, federal and provincial, and their media, which plays a big role in getting public acceptance for this disaster, this homeless disaster. I mean, when you're putting people out on the streets with nowhere to live, and you're not even, because if you're homeless, you don't get the rent segment of, so all you're getting is, I think you said $235 a month, is that something like that?
And if you do have a place to live, you get something like less than $400 a month more.
You have to pay for it.
Can you find a place for that?
can't. So, I mean, I don't know what other word to call it except for deliberate murder. And there's no need for it, because in this country, going back to when I was growing up, the people at the bottom weren't treated like that. The people at the bottom, I mean, they were more economically deprived, but there wasn't homeless people. You know, it was a fraction of the problem we have today, and it's been deliberately caused.
It's been deliberately caused, and I also think a lot of it is they're spending the money with the police and with a number of other services that I'm quite sure if they put more money into the social assistance system and help those people, it'd lower a lot of police costs, prison costs, a lot of costs.
At least the police could start doing the job they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Instead of spending their time, so much of their time, dealing with the mentally ill on the streets and getting the homeless out of all of our parks every morning and getting them settled in the evening. And remember, this is deliberate. The people who run this country have deliberately created this scenario. They know what the scenario is. They know it's really screwing up our healthcare system. And they know that police time, huge amounts of police, and they know the whole populace has to deal with this because we all have to deal with these people. And why do they have to be on the street when there's no need for it?
I think it's
and they won't let us solve it.
I think it's part of the divide and conquer mentality. If you've got people running around and everyone pretty much is sort of, well, they know they're not far from being in a homeless situation the way the economy is going. And so if everyone's twitchy about that and scrambling to just stay that one step above the marginalized level, they've got control.
And it really undermines our society. You know, the people who run the country, I think, are deliberately undermining our society in many ways. And the creation of homelessness and poverty and putting the mentally ill on the streets is a part of it. We were going to talk a little bit about WorkSafe as well, formerly known as workers' compensation. Did you want to talk a bit about the PTSD issue or about the situation you found yourself in?
Well, with the PTSD, I actually saw an interesting piece on CBC just today that a widow of an RCMP officer that had PTSD and I believe died, I'm not sure the whole details there, has put out a video about PTSD with a number of different police or retired police officers talking about their experiences, which weren't all that much different from this Lisa Jennings that we had on the show a while ago. That as a first responder was basically comparable to a police officer in that sense. She too has it that it seems to be a very major issue for these first responders.
I can sure understand police officers getting a post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, you are put into situations that are very, very difficult to deal with, and sometimes on an ongoing basis.
Well, this is it.
It's tough.
Between...
And we pretend it's not happening.
Yes. That between the paramedics who see all the same things the police do just about, the firemen must be experiencing the same thing, and of course the police officers, that there just isn't enough attention being paid to it. That it was good to see this widow put this out, and it is getting picked up nationally if it's on CBC, which we do have to start.
I didn't see the story, but I guess what happened is she's a widow because her husband, a retired police officer, had PTSD and committed suicide. Is that what happened?
Yeah, that's, I gather, what happened.
Yeah. And we as a society, we sort of pretend that it's like the old cowboy movies where you get shot at and you know, a minute later you're laughing or the police movies today, everything. They pretend there's no consequences, but that's not what human beings are. There are long-term consequences, and they're disastrous, and we pretend they don't happen.
Well, I had a person the other day tell me that, well, if you're worried about PTSD, you shouldn't have gone into police work anyways. So, sort of suck it up and get over it. And I thought, that's not really the way to approach it.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, what can you say? I actually think that I have a mild case of PTSD just from the traumas of life that we all have to go through, but it's very mild compared to, I think many millions of us probably have mild cases of PTSD.
I was going to say that I think everyone seems to just have a little bit of it, but some of them it gets really out of control.
Oh, absolutely.
That in my case, actually, they tell me that people spend a lot of time in intensive care come down with PTSD, and I definitely recognize symptoms within me that when I had the operation to remove the tumor, all tied in with my issues with WorkSafe, I spent a lot of time in intensive care, and I do know that I came out of there totally not the same person. Now, we all have some situation like that where somewhere our body just has had all it can handle, whether it's mental, physical, or both.
Emotional.
Yes, it's just, and your system just goes into a shutdown mode. I can't deal with this anymore. And I really think that's what it is with everyone with PTSD. It's triggered differently, different reasons behind it, and some of there were major trigger events such as what the police or the various...
Norm, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much for talking about these issues. Okay. And thank you all for watching this week's Citizens Forum. Goodbye.